All right, good morning. Just starting out messing around with Talk Studios again. I've got 2 coffees. That's like this is how much I drink per day. And I'm about to bring a guest on that I met in Earth Awakenings on Discord, just chatting. He's got a very unique voice, baritone, just his dialect, just the way he speaks, and his inflection. I've always enjoyed it. And then when I saw his picture, I was like, oh, that's what you look like. That's awesome. So he goes by GilliPong. I'm just going to bring him up. He won't be on screen yet.
Hello, hello.
Welcome, brother.
Thank you so much, brother, for the invitation. It's an
Yeah.
honor to speak with you in person, finally.
I know. So honestly, here, let me do it this way. I'm going to stop my camera. All right. So guys, for like months, we go on Earth Awakenings and just chit chat with the whole group of people. And we talk about, is there a God? Who is God? What's going on with where we live? There is a little bit of medical information. Sometimes they go into politics, crypto. I mean, it's just really a place where any subject you can bring up gets brought up. And Gilly has always brought such a calm demeanor. And yeah, man, if you want to tell them a little bit about how you found Earth Awakenings, and then we can bring our cams up.
Yeah, no problem, man. It was about last Christmas that I started kind of going into Discord for the first time in my life. I never used it for gaming or anything. I was always kind of reluctant to go in there because I thought it was a strange place. But anyway, I ventured in there and I found Earth Awakenings on, I think, Rumble, where it's constantly live, and they had an invitation to go into that Discord channel. But first, I started with the QE, Quantum Eraser, and Nathan Oakley server, and I saw it was a very, very hostile environment. And Earth Awakenings brought this kind of mutual respect and honor and allowing people to finish their thought, even though the thought seemed to be inconsistent or something like that. So that's kind of how I found it. And yeah, and Witsit, of course, was kind of, I knew that Witsit would pop in every now and then. So I had a few discussions with him. And I really loved how he articulated himself and how well he managed to kind of convey a meaning in his words without going into any logical fallacies and addressing the issue at hand instead of going into ad hominem attacks and stuff like that, which seemed to be very persistent on the other end. Which I think Witsit, he started off with QE and he learned a lot from him. Mm-hmm. But now there's a divide between them, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm going to bring my cam up. You can do the same. Let's see. There we go. So there's Gilly, and we're gonna chit chat and talk some of this stuff out. So, I've been in the truth seeking community for 2 years, maybe a hair over 2 years. I had my best friend told me that space, as we were taught when we were kids, is not actual. It's not actually a place you can go to, infinite light years and infinite space. And he said that he believes we live in an enclosed realm. And I thought he was pulling my leg. I mean, I thought he was kidding and joking. And so, but at the same time, he sent some good videos like Eric Dubay. And I think it was a Witsit video, maybe a Matt Long video, where he was basically, Matt Long has a video that's called Dear Pastor. And it basically is like, Dear Pastor, before you condescendingly attack these people or think this is a stupid idea, look at this. And he brought in some scriptural references and he showed some NASA fakery. And it kind of caught my attention, like, whoa, what was that? Like, why was that faked? Why would they fake anything? And so my journey was like, let me see everything I can see that's fake on the ISS and with like the images of the blue marble. And that's what I was hungry for first. And then I started getting into the, well, who all knows and why would they lie? And all the normal questions that you would have. I was tempted just to not even venture into, looking into all this, because I mean, I've got a family, I've got 3 small kids and a wife of 11 years, and I didn't need flat earth. Like I didn't need or want all this stuff. But the real question came down to me. It was like, well, is the truth important? Does the truth matter? is the truth valuable? And then what is the truth? And so I think
And
anybody
is it
that, go ahead. Oh, you said
and
it is?
is truth
Yeah.
objective?
Yeah. So like any of us that have woken up or that are even able to ask the question, I don't want to say have a gift, but you have to be able to have the heliocentric model alive and well in this hand and the possible enclosed stationary topographical plane Earth in this hand to weigh them out and to look, well, what does this say? And what does this say? And, who brought this up? Who made this up? The people that can't look into it, they just have to believe it's a ball. We have to be on a ball going around the sun, and it just stops there. But last thing, and I'll
Yeah,
pass the mic.
exactly.
I saw Whitsitt over the last 2 years refine his craft of debate, refine and grow as a person to not be triggered by the people that get emotional and try to get him triggered. They want him upset. They want him to yell and fight. But he's like, you know what? I have the truth. I'm doing this for the creator, and I'm just going to debate. I'm going to lay out the points. And if they don't get it, or if they don't want to get it, or if they're paid opposition, that's on them. And I think he's doing a lot better job. So how long have you been looking into this? Because I think you've been into it longer than me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know like this specific topic, but like I started off in 2013. I had a kind of a spiritual awakening where I was kind of confronted with my deepest pain. I have 2 children myself, and I'm divorced. So in 2013, I divorced, and my children moved with my ex-wife to Norway, and I'm originally from Iceland. So that's why I have this kind of weird, what is it called? Accent. Thank you. It was then I started realizing that I was an atheist. So I was very dogmatic as an atheist, and I was very triggered around people that were speaking about God, and I didn't really know why. So when I was confronting my deepest pain, I became the father who had left my mother or had kind of cheated on her when I was 8 years old. And I was suddenly confronted with the fact that I became the one that I had kind of not liked very well when I was young. So that messed up my signal or my connection with the creator or the father, the ultimate father. And when I started going down that journey, I just started being an infophiliac. I just loved information, and I was trying to get as much information as I could. And then I was kind of saying, like, is truth subjective? Do I have my truth, and do you have your truth? In some aspects, that might be true when you speak about feelings and your own experiences and other things. Like if you look at a tree outside, and you're sitting next to a person who might have fallen down that same tree and broken his or her leg, they would see the tree differently than me. Like they would look at it as some kind of a threat, or a bad memory, while I just see the birch or something like that. So in that aspect, it could be considered subjective. But if there's an objective truth, what is it? And when I was confronted with the fact, my friend came up to me and he said, "The earth is flat, man." And I was like, oh. I got this cognitive dissonance attack, and I got so angry at this information. And then I realized maybe it's me that is blocking that information to actually pass into my intellect, where I can evaluate right and wrong and see if it's true. So then I went down this rabbit hole of, I created this YouTube channel when I was just analyzing stuff. So I was analyzing atheism. What is this religion that pretends not to be a religion? What is it? And when I was listening to Lawrence Krauss or Sir Richard Dawkins or Hitchens or whomever has been, the arbiters of truth regarding atheism, I felt that they were inconsistent when they were speaking about the metaphysical. Time, space, cosmology, all these different things. And they talked about it as if it was physically true. It was objectively true. But then I realized it's more a belief system in the heliocentric, or Helios, that became the sun. And if you believe in the sun as God, then of course the sun would be in the middle. It just logically would make sense. But I was actually looking into Neoplatonism and Hermeticism and the Kabbalah and the Kabbalists. And then I realized that there are aspects of God that it doesn't really make sense, you know. If God is infused in everything, that's just Neoplatonism. You know, matter is evil and light is good. It just doesn't really hold up, because I feel like the creator is outside of time, space, and matter in a way that we cannot comprehend it. It's ineffable. When you try to describe it, it gets lost in translation somehow. So yeah, it's about 2013 when I started waking up to the fact that maybe I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. And then I just started reading the original texts, like who is Isaac Newton and what is Principia Mathematica, and who is Lord Francis Bacon and Novum Organum. Why was he creating a revolution where everybody was looking at science as some kind of a fallacy, appeal to authority? And he was trying to break the dogmas, try to invoke a new method in science that would be the scientific method that we have to abide by in order to gain knowledge when it comes to studying natural phenomena that are not made by men. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, but it was quite a long one.
Absolutely, brother. No, I like when you are given space to speak. A lot of the times in Earth Awakenings, they do okay, but you kind of feel like the timer's ticking down and you got to pass the mic. But no, I like it. Anytime you want to rant about anything, go for it. It is all of this truth seeking is such an interesting journey, because you nailed it when you said, is this my truth? Am I just believing this, or do I just hold this to be true? But is it? Like some of those, that even asking that question is really difficult for some men, because if a man is in a position where he can say, I'm not sure if this is true or if that's true, they take that as a sign of weakness, or not backpedaling, but it was awkward for me to admit I don't know how this realm works. Once I realized that you can't find curvature anywhere, and that they didn't measure any motion, and that we're stable, me being a believer of the Creator, I mean, I didn't really know what the Bible said about the earth, and I didn't really even pay attention much to how many times it says that it's built on a firm foundation and shall not be moved. And when the sun stops, that kind of caught me off guard. But in the journey of finding and asking questions about nature, like reality outside the window right now, I also had to reanalyze and ask questions about Christianity, and that was a shock, because for me it was outer space is not what we were told, and then it was the earth is not a spinning ball in space, and then for me it was the dinosaur narrative is not true, as well as billions of years for them to exist. And I already didn't believe that we came from monkeys. That was something that Darwin's theory of evolution, thinking that we came from primordial ooze and eventually that got struck by lightning or whatever and became all that we have. That didn't make any sense to me because of entropy. And we have the human eyeball that it's so complex. It sees this beautiful world. It didn't make sense to me as a person that a random explosion could eventually give us such complexity in the human body. That didn't make sense to me. Now I know people that believe in evolution, they have their reasons for how that could have happened. They have their stories on how it did happen, but I just didn't believe it. And then for me, it was like all of history, the wars, politics, just everything seems to be inverted and twisted. And the reason is to make us divided, and to make us not in control of almost ourselves. You know what I mean? Because I've been a unique person from the beginning, a very empathic, very emotional. And for a guy, in high school and even in grade school, but specifically in high school, that people were like, "You're gay. Like, you're the gayest person I've ever seen." And I'm like, "I'm not, though. Like, I only think women are attractive." And they're like, yeah, that's what a fag would say and all that. And so I got gaslit early on just for being a deep thinker and an emotional, empathic male. And so that set me on a trajectory to prove how straight I was and have like 2 or 3 girlfriends at a time and like be a player. So ultimately I got pushed into being a player, looking at, finding and looking at porn and just being just like a guy's guy, partying, doing drugs and getting wasted because I thought that was cool and what a man does. But I didn't realize I was actually getting destroyed, crushed down, torn apart, and I was getting separated from who I really am in this world. Like, what is my purpose and who am I? That was just becoming more and more fractal in nature. So now I'm on a rant, but finding the Messiah 15 years ago was the first step for me. I surrendered to the Messiah, and I now know in this walk, that's my journey. That's my choice. Not everybody has to go that path or has to believe what I believe. And I'm not going to push Christianity or following the Messiah on anybody. And I don't even really want to say like I'm a Christian. I'm like the trademark 5013 religion. I want to be a follower of the way, the truth, and the life. And that can kind of overreach into other people's faiths, because if I really broke it down, I want to bring good into the world. I want to love people. I want to help people if they're vibrating on this low frequency where they have depression, anxiety, and worry and fear. I want to encourage them up to one where they have peace and joy and patience and kindness and goodness. So it's been an amazing journey. I was going to mention that you're 7 hours ahead of me, that you're in Norway. And I wrote this down. So I'm in US, you're in Europe. We'd have to go across the Atlantic to get to each other. We're 4,817 miles apart. And there would be 2,273 miles of Earth curve in the way of us seeing each other. So I wrote that down. But anyway, if you want to respond to any of that, go for it. Oh, and I'm going to grab some headphones I forgot to plug in. So go ahead.
Okay, do that, brother. I think your logic is very beautiful here. It's there are a few things. Have you? I wanted to ask you a question. Because I was going into the religious part. Like, if I was brought up as an evangelical Protestant in Iceland, and my priest was just a wonderful human being, and I got confirmed and everything, and then I lost that religion because I thought it was so lame, and I thought they were so boring, and I started studying acting, and then I was hearing these people, no, 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 no. Everything was so boring and tiresome, and I got so like they couldn't hold my attention. Probably would have been diagnosed with ADHD because of that, because I thought it was so boring. But when I started reading Ecclesiastes, I think it's called Can you help me out here?
Yeah,
Because
it's Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, so that's King Solomon, according to the official record. And in there, everything that you do, every action that you try to go for is chasing the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And that intrigued my interest. Like, why would this be in the Bible? Because it was so meaningless, And it was all it was just a little summary in the end where he says, God is watching you. He is within you. He sees through you. So be good. It's better to be good than to be bad. Okay? So I wanted to ask you, have you read the are you getting some feedback in my video?
Yeah,
Or
it's glitching.
maybe
It's
my
flashing.
browser?
A
Yeah, I'll
little
just
bit.
stop it. And
Yeah. I'll save some bandwidth too. Or we can just talk like this and see if the audio is clean.
yeah, I think that's better. My camera seems to be.
Okay, I may have lost audio, which if you can still hear me, No worries. If we have to do like a technical restart or come back together, I'll let you mess around with your side. I'll try to get your audio back on. And I'll just talk for a second while you try to work on that. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna put Gilly's YouTube channel in.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, there seems to be glitching out here. Some memory issues or something.
Well, if it fails and this whole thing crashes, no worries, man. Because this is me being brand new to Talk Studios and like being a streamer or whatever I'm doing. But I just love
Yeah.
visiting with people, and we'll keep going. We'll keep trying. If it just crashes, I'm gonna probably post this just for fun because this is the early days of Run Boston Bear on YouTube. and I'll share your YouTube channel, man, because I saw you had music. Like I listened to Wicked Games was amazing. I was like, I didn't know you sing and play too. So if you don't mind me sharing your YouTube channel, I'm probably going to start sharing it around.
Yeah, sure. That would be awesome. Thank you so much. I need some followers.
Yeah.
I'm going to start season 2 of GilliPong analysis now. So I'm going to try to go down this rabbit hole of understanding like what is knowledge and what can we prove and what is beliefs. But I was just going to ask you, have you read Holy Science by Sri Yukteswar?
I haven't read that one, no.
Okay, I started out by reading Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi, where he is kind of describing the Vedic philosophy, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian understanding of cosmology and stuff like that. And then I ran upon The Holy Science by Sri Yukteswar. It's a pretty short book, but it contains a bridge between Christianity and the Hinduism, kind of. So they were bridging the gap between these religions, pointing out that the true Father, the unknown, the nameless one, is the highest in the hierarchy of our creation. And then we have these 7 layers, which slowly go into the magnetism, the electrical understanding. And then I was looking at like the rainbow and how it's 7 colors, right? And then I started noticing that we have a pride flag with 6 colors. And the dark side of the moon is the Pink Floyd album is showing white light entering a prism, creating 6 colors. So then I started actually questioning who is creating these illusions. Why are they lying about the colors and stuff like that? And it seems to be correlating into the chakra systems, which all have colors according to the rainbows, and they are 7. And each chakra system is connected to an endocrine gland in the endocrine gland system. So where is the bridge between the physical and metaphysical? According to me, it's within us. And we are currently using or filling space with our voice, articulating it with thoughts that are metaphysical and understanding and information, which is metaphysical. So we are this rainbow bridge to the gods somehow, which might be pretty hard if you're an animal to try to understand this for some reason. So like logically, there seems to be an understanding of cosmology that is being hidden by man, and they want us to be triggered by emotional triggers. And we all know that what triggers you kind of controls you. What angers you controls you. And then you see the system creating war between races, between the sexes, between nations. And they're always trying to do this divide and conquer. So we are fighting each other instead of realizing that the people that have been keeping the libraries, who have been burning the libraries, have actually been hiding something in order to keep us under control. So it's pretty profound when we start realizing that the objective truth, capital T truth, seems to be God, the creator. And everything that kind of goes towards that truth is better off than the ones who is just consumed by the lies.
Man, that's good. That's a really, really good one. For my response, I am very, very fond of King Solomon because I can relate to his story because, he had like 500 wives or whatever, or 800 wives and 500 concubines. There's just a lot of women in his life, sexually, physically, partners, etc. And I'm not saying like I was crazy like that, but ultimately with the story of King Solomon, he had that. A lot of men want pleasure and connection with women, etc. He also had all the riches because he was a king. He threw the biggest parties you could ever imagine, slayed like fields of cattle for how many people needed to be fed at these parties. He had everything, all the riches you could ever have. Any experience I think a person would want as far as power, control, fun, excitement, engagement with the real world and like pleasures, he got it. I mean, he asked for these experiences. And then after experiencing all that, his final conclusion is it's all vanity if he doesn't have the connection with the creator. And I mean, I probably paraphrased that poorly, but in how I feel, I also set on a mission to find, half of me was trying to find pleasure and joy and excitement, and almost like I was an adrenaline junkie. I drove fast cars, I rode crotch rockets, etc. I did adventurous things, but as much as I wanted to have fun and party, I wanted to relieve the pain, like relieve the pain of being confused, not knowing who I was really in this world, because ultimately I think man will worship something. We're designed to worship. And it may be a lot of times we worship ourselves. A lot of times it's video games, it's food, it's, lust or whatever, money, power, domineering, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't want power to have power. I didn't want to control other people. I didn't even know how to control myself. So when I started my relationship with the Messiah, it was the greatest relief ever because I put him in the lead. I put him in charge. I was like, I know that the path I've walked is terrible. Like it's only led me to the gutters. It's only led me to failure and being depressed and anxious and sad. So how about you take the lead and show me how to love other people? Show me how to think about myself. Who am I and who are you? And in that process, I've just let go of a lot of the things that people um, are chasing. And I started to be more aware of gratitude and what am I grateful for, or what is there to be grateful for? And my appreciation increased. So then I slowed down and I started being grateful for every single breath and every heartbeat and every thought. Like, because the Bible says, hold every thought captive and try to control your tongue. Because if your tongue is out of control and you're just saying whatever off the cuff or, from your emotional state, you're going to hurt other people. So that's the thing on King Solomon I was going to say. I was going to mention the book, The Way to Love. It's by, it's so funny now that I know what I know. I think he was a Jesuit priest, Anthony de Mello. But I liked The Way to Love because it talked about attachments and almost being run by our attachments to this world. And it taught me how to let go in a way. So I'm not a believer in the Messiah that says you can't look at the Quran or you can't look at other writings or anything other people say, because my heart of hearts says, if it's true, it's the Creator's. If it's true, then
Exactly.
it's his already, and I shouldn't fear analyzing something or looking at something. And then the last thing I'll say, and I'll pass it back, is you were talking about chakras, and I'll admit I used to think chakras. What do you mean, like New Age? The energetic body and like all this stuff. And I used to condescendingly immediately just look at that as like, oh, that's not Christianity. But what I've learned is, again, if it's designed and created in a way, then it's already the creator's. It's his. It's not ours to fight about. So my wife, she went for training in acupuncture because she's a physician. She's an osteopathic sports medicine, family medicine doc, and she also got trained in acupuncture. And my chiropractor also talked about the channels in the body, like energy flows up and down, and a lot of the times when you have a blockage, that can present as like a symptom or an ailment or a problem. And unblocking the flow of energy up and down our body is one of the key things to be fully alive. So I ground now. I take off my socks and shoes and I get on the earth and I look at the sun, like I look directly at it, and it doesn't burn my retinas out like they told us. And anyway, this journey of awakening and having conversations with people like you, where I don't fear what you're going to say and I don't fear what you think about what I'm going to say, because that's not what it's about. It's not about fear. It's about love. Connecting, sharing, trying to be healthy, strong, have vitality, have connection, because that's my bottom line goal. Is I want to connect with other people in love, and I want to connect with the Creator, how He would have me connect with Him. And that's like that's my baseline. That's like where I operate from. But what do you got now, bro?
Thank you so much, brother. It's so beautiful to listen to you speak, man. You have such an open mind, an open heart, and I think that's pretty profound, man. So, like in my aspects of understanding the chakras, because I actually looked at it in the same way. I didn't really believe that this was anything else but this label New Age. But then I met a friend, because I started entering the randomness when I went to Norway. I wasn't around my family anymore, reminding me who I was and how I was not, like, I couldn't go up outside of that box. But I was given the gift because I needed to be the father who returned in order to resolve my father's karma, which he left with me. He was the father who went away and suffered until he died when I was 21. And I was next to him when he was suffering the most, and somehow I had to resolve this generational trauma that had been created. So when I started having that kind of an understanding of like who I was, I saw that what was blocking me in all of it was allowing myself to mature and grow into this metaphysical plant within, which is our tree of life, in my opinion. When you're an infant, you are only like this thing that gets woken up when you take heroin. You are this baby sleeping, being there, and then you slowly go into the sacrum, which is activated by alcohol. Like a tired toddler is very close to what you see when you see a drunk person walking around. And then you go into the solar plexus, and that's when you kind of start school. And solar plexus is connected to the endocrine gland system, which creates cortisol and stress. Suddenly you're late. You have to finish your homework. And it keeps you trapped in this kind of, it's become a jail for the children, because we don't have any time to homeschool them anymore or teach them about the reality of living. Instead, we are pushing them into these public domains where they have to kind of prove themselves at a very early age. And then you have to reach the heart. And that is awakened with the MDMA or cacao chocolate, raw chocolate that you can get from the Amazons. And there are shamans in chocolate that are opening the heart, opening you up. And when you realize the Messiah is the heart, he is the representation of including everyone in the world and love them, even though they know not what they do. They like it's such a transcendental understanding of love will always win. And when you realize that you can't control others, that's a futile task. Even your children, you can try to discipline them and all that, but you can't control them. You're not a puppet. They're not puppets, and you're not a puppet master. What you can control is your action or your reaction to other people. And then comes the law of karma, in my opinion, which is I can give them bad karma or give myself bad karma by being bad at them. And that includes violence, anger, hatred, jealousy, all these desires that come up in you when you have been heartbroken because your ego has been, been discredited, or you feel like somebody has stolen from you, has not given you the same amount of love you're giving them, and you're always in a competition with the outside. And I feel like these endocrine glands and the thymus gland, which is connected to the heart chakra according to the ancient doctrines, then the thymus gland stops creating the white blood cells that you use to fight cancer at puberty. So, and then you go into the fifth chakra, which is according to the elements, ether, the fifth element. Then you understand Bob Marley, because what you activate with that is cannabis. You activate the thyroid gland. And the thyroid gland is like an orchestrator of hormones, of oxytocin, of different things that the pineal and the pituitary gland, the human growth hormone, all these different hormones that are keeping us alive. And you realize that ether is not physical, it's metaphysical, according to the ancient doctrines. So in that aspect, I kind of connect with it, because I felt like I had this so-called New Age Kundalini awakening, where I felt these serpent forces from the bottom of my spine were slowly going up towards the pineal gland and opening it up into the lotus flower of intelligence. And when I went there, I saw Jesus Christ. He had my face. He had this perfect version of myself, like my ultimate potential. And I could strive to that for that. And when I read, what he said, like I always start crying, and I was in the St. Peter's Basilica just last week, and I was watching the Pieta by Michelangelo, where Mary is holding Jesus Christ after he's dead. And I just started crying, because it's so meaningful, it's so meaningful how forgiveness is like a master key to unlock your most beautiful self. And like, if you're following man, you're always going to be let down. So what do we follow? It's a good question to ask. What should we follow? Is the truth objective, and is there meaning to all of this? Is this a contained magical realm that has been made? And if so, who created the first seed? Who created the thing that keeps regenerating, into this harmony that the trees are in, and everything? And it seems to be there's like a ongoing forgiveness everywhere, even though everything is eating itself somehow, attacking itself, eating other critters and animals, and it's still this entropy. Like, you become food again, you become earth again, and it's only temporary, and you can enjoy it, and you can use this as a lesson, or you can just try to feed your own ego and become Bill Gates, trying to control the seeds and control the vaccine, whatever the thing the malevolent human being starts to look for. And then you look at Solomon, who is actually the kind of considered the first Freemason. And then you're going down a very deep rabbit hole, I think, because, like, who is Santa Claus? And why is Santa Claus meant to represent some kind of a Jesus mythical figure instead of Jesus? Why are they hiding Jesus? And what does Santa Claus represent? Is he Saturn, like according to the Kabbalistic Hiramic legend that they follow? Like, my father was a Freemason, and my grandfather was a Freemason, and every man around me was in that. And I never wanted to go into that field, because I felt there was something very strange about this society. And when you go into investigating the Royal Society and what they have created, it's pretty crazy, There's some active malevolence going on here.
Man, that you're ladling gravy this morning. So you mentioned the infant and how the infant starts out basically asleep and not aware of stimuli or not aware of its environment. Really, the reason I bring this up is because my wife was telling me she's delivered like, I don't know, 40 or 50 babies back during residency and a part of her practice. I mean, that's not her main gig, but she definitely has delivered babies. She says that when you first introduce sugar, like they call it, I think, a lolly or like a little lollipop or whatever to a baby, like if you rub it in their gums, it hits them like heroin. It puts them in a complete doped state where ultimately I think they do that like if they're going to circumcise a male or something to where he won't even care, which that's just kind of, it's quite telling that sugar is that powerful. Like we don't really think about it, or I guess the normal people out there don't think that much about sugar, but I think it is as damaging or addictive as heroin or a hard drug, because it's poison. It does its, the manufactured white sugar does its harm to the body. And I mean, I've been trying to limit sugar in my life, and I was going to say about like the closing off of the mind or the inability to think and communicate. So much of that does have to do with what I've learned. I never even heard pineal gland. I never heard that in my life till I started looking into all these truth or topics. And the fluoride in our water, like being fluoridated, and then the highly refined oils, all the processed, canola oil, safflower oil, all this stuff, high temperature, crazy refined oils are terrible for us. And I've learned that if you consume a lot of processed oils, you sunburn super duper easy. If you cut the oils out of your diet, you become less like you won't just turn red in the sun immediately. And then also sunglasses, like having sunglasses on all the time also makes you have a bigger chance to burn. So I try not to wear sunglasses, near as much anymore. And I don't do the seed oils, and I don't need sunscreen at all. I mean, like I can be in the sun, direct sunlight for like 4 hours and not burn. So that's kind of unique and neat, finding truth in health and stuff like that. You mentioned karma, and I just really lean into the concept you reap what you sow. And you may say, oh yeah, it's like the same thing. But what I don't like is when folks are, well, I mean, it's not that I don't like it. When people say, oh, well, karma's going to get you, they almost speak of karma like it for sure works every time, but it doesn't, because I know of good people that have only done things like you and I are doing, trying to bring light and joy into the world, and they have a horrific accident. Well, that doesn't make sense. Or people that are super evil and dark end up having a lot of fun, money. They can mock God and yet still have a good life. So I say you reap what you sow, because for those that pour into the kingdom and pour into the light and pour into the creator and trying to make people come together like this rather than like fighting, those people will reap the benefit of what they sowed into. And if it's not in this life, it will be in the next. So I have the patience that even if, let's say, next week ends up being the most horrific week of my life and all sorts of crazy stuff happens, or let's just say the world just turns to total trash, where I would almost be tempted to question if there's a creator, I'm not going to go down that road, because I now have, the 15-year history where he took me from a completely fractured man, broken in every way, depraved in mind, hopeless, to hopeful, joyful. And I anticipate that I will be able to spend eternity with those that are like-minded and that want to bring glory to the Creator and want to know Him. So that was a little bit of a rant, but the last thing I was going to ask you, you may have already seen the video. I've been posting it everywhere. Dr. Young, he's the one that has a PhD in physics and he has a master's in physics and a PhD in nuclear theoretical physics. He's also into music. He's into alchemy. He actually says his music is alchemical music. So I'm going to have to send it to you if you haven't seen or heard his music. It's called Head Flux. but he really talks about, alchemy and the periodic table. And really, he was saying what makes up the periodic table is a mixture of the elements, like earth, wind, fire, ether, and different combinations of that stuff make up the entire periodic table, where science will say, oh no, the periodic table set in stone. It's all just these substances in their density, whatever. But yeah, have you heard of Dr. Young or followed any of his work yet?
No, I have to. You have to send that link to me. I want to watch that
Oh yeah.
because
So
I'm studying Bhakti Yoga, which is the art of devotion, with a Filipino monk who was learning to become kind of like a shaman and a white tantra master. So he sings music with people in a circle, and he invokes devotion within them by singing music which is infused with truth, like and positivity. And I think like music can be healing to people, especially when you have some unresolved trauma in your nervous system. And what you talked about earlier, these are endocrine gland disruptors. Sugar is an endocrine gland disruptor. So I think like the reason why most people get flu or influenza, so called, like I highly don't agree with germ theory, and I call it the disproven contagion theory, that you can infect others with your breath or with your saliva or whatever. So the endocrine gland disruptors are there for a reason. Like there are nefarious high IQ people creating food in order to make you just act on the first three. You're always lustful and stressed. Caffeine, for instance, it infuses you with
no.
cortisol. That's fine. Coffee is good. I drink coffee. It's fine.
Okay.
But I replaced it for almost a decade with raw chocolate that I found, because they are related, and caffeine is related to theobromine, and theobromine creates bliss in the consciousness, in the heart. It makes you want to connect. Like MDMA is like the highest condensed, alchemically created compound that makes like everybody starts becoming this touchy feely, and I love you, man, you're so amazing, and you can just see how that was. And this knowledge actually comes from Robert Anton Wilson and Timothy Leary, which are considered the dark side of the force by some. But they were actually investigating, like, if you want to activate the pineal gland, then you go for psilocybin or high dosages of LSD. If you want to activate the pituitary gland, that's DMT, that's ketamine. So ketamine is like a non-spiritual experience, but it's kind of like you just turn on a flashlight that just starts being a beam out of your consciousness, which seems, I think, when we die, because I was having a near-death experience under the influence of ayahuasca, because I was having constant thoughts of self-deleting. I just really wanted to leave. It was too much suffering for me. And once I managed to kind of go that way instead of actually leaving, I just said, okay, let's go see a shaman and see what happens. And I had an open mind. I wasn't really afraid of it. But then I saw that, it's a way to manipulate others. It's a way to, mess with people. But there's a shaman somewhere in the middle of Amazon it takes you a 12-day road trip or a boat trip up a river, up the Amazon River, in order to find him. And he is considered to be able to talk to crows, and he can telepathically communicate with animals. So I don't know the fullest potential of man and how you can awaken these intuition and telepathy and communicating with others. But ever since I started going after and trying to find God, these channels just started waking up in me. It's kind of like you had a Bluetooth uh, little device in your head and you didn't know how to turn it on. But it's always on, but it has been, through the endocrine gland disruption, been turned off. That's fluoride. That's the heavy metals. That's mercury. And it's like the alchemy. And I was actually studying Isaac Newton and the Philosopher's Stone, and he was trying to figure out the Philosopher's Stone. And the Philosopher's Stone isn't a rock that you alchemically create or some object that changes lead into gold. It's the actual alchemy within, where they were hiding it from everyone else because it was a secret society. They didn't want others to know. And that made them anti-Christian. That made them believe that they could become the next Messiah. So that's the thing that I've seen, is like you can go into this field and understand it, and you can realize that there's black tantra, the sexual thing, the controlling of other, the sex magic, the Aleister Crowley. Whoa, suddenly it turned on my camera there. Aleister Crowley, the evil, the Baphomet, the thing that Sabadiah Levi was invoking, trying to become the Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Luciferian way, and that's Lucifer working through you. But when you realize that you can actually, this is just automatically going to happen when you fast and you stop desiring and stop trying to go for lust and violence and watching something that invokes anger and hatred in you, and you just go into the moment, sit in the forest, connect with earth, look at the sun directly, this automatically will happen over time. And that's the reason why the Hindus were so captivated by the yoga philosophy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's it's deep stuff. It's amazing. Like it's not over my head. And some people, when you start getting around people that can talk like you, or that are really deep thinkers, like as open-minded as we are, I think some people see it as a threat, or they get worried. But in what you just said, it reminded me, before I surrendered to the Creator and asked for a new direction, I felt like everything around me wanted to pull me towards the darkness. And if I was on a sliding scale, if I was born just neutral and I had the love of my parents and everything was bringing me towards good, once I entered into the school system and I was just intermingled with a whole bunch of different people with a bunch of different thoughts, it's almost like the hand of Satan is almost the puppet master that's controlling everyone's, or kind of influencing everyone's individual day and minds, and doing a dark work to convince each one of us that we're not important, or that we're ugly, or that we're stupid, or that what we say, you shouldn't even say it, because you shouldn't even speak. But that's how it was for me. Some people are more confident. Some people don't go through what I went through, but a major part of my youth was really wrapped around self-esteem and getting defined in me the wrong definition, because really it should have been every single person in grade school and in high school. They should know that they're unique and they're valuable and they're beautiful and they have the potential. They should be taught that they have the potential to do many great things in the world. But that's not what comes across with like the ringing of the bell, time to go to class, and like the indoctrination of the Rockefeller school system, where you just sit down and memorize and regurgitate, go to lunch, there's the bell. And you go through just the system of the mainstream school. There's not very much in that will develop a person to believe that they're beautiful and wonderful and can do great things for the world. Really, it's, did you memorize enough? Are you making the grade? Are you making an A or a B? You need to, or you won't get that money, you won't get that job, you won't go to college. So it's really sad, the system that's been created for people to walk through. And with my kids, they're not going to mainstream school. We currently have them in a Montessori school, which is better than mainstream. But I'd love, if I could have it my way, it would be to get them out of that school system, educate them myself, homeschool, and have a homestead, grow some of our own food, have some chickens, have a little acreage, maybe 8 to 10 acres. Like that's the long-term goal for me, is to take back control of how we raise our kids and how we love them, and because right now I don't know what the people are saying to them. I don't know how they're being treated, and I would rather have that control. But I'm pretty close to needing to head out and go to the gym. I meet a person here in about 10 minutes. I did want to show you this before I go. Can you see this on the screen?
Yes.
This is the video. It's on the channel The Way Forward, and the title is Dismantling Scientism and Demystifying Alchemy, featuring Dr. Steve Young. It breaks down the highlights. I'll link this to you. You can read the highlights of the episode. I might let this play just to see if you can hear the audio, just a very, very brief intro. So let me know.
Stephen A. Young is an author, musician, and natural philosopher known by the music alias Headflux, and also for his book, A Fool's Wisdom, Science, Conspiracies, and the Secret Art of Alchemy. Based in Scotland, a husband and father of 3, he holds a Master of Science and PhD in Theoretical Physics, and since departing academia in 2005, created a solo career as an independent music producer, creating over 100 records, including remixes and library works, and performing at clubs and festivals internationally. From the years 2015 through 2018, Steve spent some time soul-seeking in Central America and Hawaii, participating in shamanic ceremonies, learning alchemy, and the traditional ways of healing with plant medicines and music. The first fruits of this new knowledge was audio alchemy, a practical method of music production based in Hermetic teachings and a complete set of correspondences between music and alchemy. This was taught to students in a series of retreats in Hawaii and some smaller workshops throughout the US and Europe. And on April 1st, 2024, after more than 2 years in development, he released his first book, A Fool's Wisdom, which challenges contemporary scientific dogmas in light of the alchemical perspective. And his book was a #1 bestseller in Western philosophy on Amazon US. And for this episode, this is what we cover. His new book, A Fool's Wisdom. And I gotta commend Steve for his bravery, because he is, to my knowledge, the first theoretical physicist to speak out against theoretical physics and several other dogmatic scientism fields of so-called study. And he strings them together in a pretty incredible way and shows how one sort of ties into the other, and much of society buys into this totally false paradigm that is propped up through these various scientific or scientism dogmas. And it is occulting alchemical knowledge, which leads one to the true nature of this realm, the true knowledge of this realm, the true nature of the self, and true knowledge of the self. And this book is awesome. It's incredible. I remember pulling my wife aside.
Let me get to where he's
I
at.
just bought it on Audible. I found it on Audible. I'm gonna read this book, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me, man. I'm really looking forward to this. So we're discussing.
So anyway, that, let me see, am I muted or not? Okay. I'm not muted.
Just thank you so much. We can end the stream. You have to go. So I think it's actually this is profound understanding, and I think once I woke up, I realized like we are actually Indiana Jones. We don't really know, and the world became so much more fun when I realized that the physicists, the theoretical physicists, and the people who claim to know everything. We found all the elements, and now we're just trying to find the God particle and all that stuff. It's like when you get out of that belief system and you realize that this is just like people trying to get funds and trying to look important, and the CERN and all that stuff is just trying to investigate the Big Bang, trying to put material science into the creation of the world. It's a fallible, stupid way of seeing the world, to be honest. And the reason why you don't understand them when they speak is because they're speaking nonsense. Nothing actually creates something. When you're listening to Brian Cox from the Royal Society, or Lawrence Krauss, or Richard Dawkins, we now know, all this bullshit. It's just funny, man.
Mhm.
And we can actually learn something new. And that for me is actually beautiful, being dumb again and realize I don't know anything. We
Absolutely.
don't know anything, man.
Well, I'll close it out. I'm probably gonna close it out with prayer as you leave, and then I also want to say, you guys, be sure to subscribe to GilliPong because he's got a great channel. He's a friend. Obviously, I'm gonna have guests on that you don't agree with everything they say. You're not gonna agree with everything that I say, but the point of my channel and the point of these talks / interviews that I'm going to be doing is just to allow yourself to practice hearing other people speak without necessarily agreeing with them. Just hear what we have to say, take whatever truth that you think we're saying and keep it. If you think none of it's good to keep or not true, then don't keep it. I mean, you don't even have to be here if you're uncomfortable with the way that we're communicating. I appreciate your friendship, GilliPong, and I look forward to talking to you more. I'm going to have you back on for sure in the future, just because 1 hour is not enough with you, brother. So thanks for coming today and visiting, and I'll just pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for letting GilliPong and I visit, share what we think the truth is, share our hearts, a little bit of our experiences in the past, some of the pain and misfortune that we went through. Yet ultimately, both of us have stories of redemption. We have stories of healing, coming back to our true self, which is, I think, someone that's humbly submitted before you, not us. So like, if we're God of our own lives, that I think can only lead to the limit of man. But if you're in the driver's seat and we trust you more than us, then I think there is no limit. So with all the listeners in the chat, anybody that watches this later, I just pray blessings and peace over their life. Help them to find who they really are in this world. And please help me to be a tool for slowing down the division and the contention and the drama, because I really do just want peace, love, and connection. So I pray this all in Yeshua's holy name. Amen.
Amen, brother.
Okay, see you soon, man.
See you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.